Hello and welcome to this Amino webinar presentation. Our webinar today is focused on everything you need to know about upcycling. The webinar is focused on one of the biggest single issues pay TV operators face in modernizing their video platforms, their legacy set-top boxes. Bear in mind that those legacy set-top boxes sit as one of the largest liabilities on their balance sheets. They need to modernize, but to do this in a smart and cost-effective way. Current business models, cap and grow and lift and replace, both have unattractive operational and cost issues. Our solution helps them overcome this, and we're proud today to have three presenters covering off the main commercial and technical points, and also underpinned with two case studies. But before we get started, I'd like to address a few housekeeping points. We've muted all attendees. You can post questions in the Q&A tab found in the panel at the bottom of your screen, and we'll be happy to address questions towards the end of the webinar. We are recording this and we'll let you know where it can be found online in the next few days. So to start things off, may I introduce you to Thomas Haas, a member of our EMEA commercial team. Thomas.
Thank you, Jamie. My name is Thomas Haas. I am the Business Development Director in the EMEA region in Amino, and I'm going to show you my part of the presentation and show you what's the actual dilemma of the operators and why the upcycling is so attractive to you. So the TV consumer is on the move, enjoying more and more options than ever for accessing the favorite content from the favorite device. The modern user experience, a basic requirement for viable video service operators, includes voice-based discovery, multi-screen delivery, blended, linear, and OTT services, and an agile platform for quickly responding to consumer demands. And here's the dilemma what we see. While all progressive operators recognize the demands of the consumer, they also face rising content costs, competing capex budget requests, fragmenting market segments, and declining pay TV margins. To address this operator challenge, Amino has launched the Operation Upcycle program, combining our tools, skills, and methodologies to create modern pay TV service that leverage existing assets and infrastructure.
The upcycling provides unprecedented benefits. What does it mean?
It gives you as an operator a very fast time to market with upgrading the set-top boxes with software that cuts new service deployment of new services and capabilities by up to a quarter. You can increase your return of investment by eliminating the need to replace legacy set-top boxes, which involve both device and installation costs, and it saves you as much as 80% of the cost of upgrading. Why do we know it? Because we have existing customers, done this before, and these figures are coming from a real use case, a real business case, what Jamie will explain you later on. And you can combat the churn and grow your subscriber numbers with boosting both the retention and acquisition, with some operators showing more than 200% subscriber growth after the upcycling process is finished. And again, this figure, this number is coming out of a real customer success story, what Jamie will show you later on. And how we are doing it, what we are using for it is our Amino OS. This is the heart of the upcycling process. Our Amino OS solves the legacy problem with empowering you as an operator to launch a modern consumer-centric user experience and video services while maximizing the value of existing capital and infrastructure investments. The key feature of our awarded winning solution includes a robust and very mature virtual set-top box software stack, what is designed to improve agility in both Linux and Android environments. So it's very flexible. It also includes a set-top box abstraction layer, what is linking the devices into a full ecosystem of many of our industry partners, middleware solutions. So we are totally agnostic to any kind of middleware vendor. As well, there is a major set of APIs what is designed to lower the risk and speed up the time to market for any kind of project. The upcycling of legacy devices and integration of new devices to a next generation user experience in systems. And it ease up the creation of common user experience across the total subscriber base. That's my part. As a next, I would hand over to Johnny McGee, who gives you an insight about the processes, product itself, and gives you much more details. Thanks a lot. Johnny, please.
Thanks for that, Thomas. So to introduce myself, I'm Johnny McKee. I'm VP of Product Management and Customer Support in Amino. So I'll talk about the methodology because that's really what makes this a predictable, reliable project, and the key tool that enables us to deliver this for our customers is Amino OS. Amino OS is our firmware that runs on devices, but it differs from what a lot of other vendors support because we treat Amino OS as a product. It's been developed over many years, and it has its own roadmap and feature development roadmap where our customers know when new features, new protocols are going to be delivered. Having this means that we can easily put a new firmware onto another set-top box, and because we've done this on so many different chipsets over the years, we can actually move on to third-party hardware very easily. So it enables upcycling. So why would an operator do this? Well, there are a number of reasons. Lack of support from an existing hardware vendor is a very typical one, and recently there have been a few hardware vendors have exited the market, and so that's a good scenario where the customer has an expensive asset in their network. They want to continue to get life from that asset, and so Amino can take over those devices, deploy Amino OS, and give them a supported platform for a number of years to come. Sometimes also our customers approach Amino because of lack of feature development on an existing platform, and as I say, because of the roadmap we have with Amino OS, they can see that we're adding, protocols such as Dash, HLS. We've taken boxes that were perhaps an old multicast IPTV device and modified it to turn it into a modern streaming OTT device just by changing the firmware and adding Amino OS. There are typically a range of options, and this is why we need a good methodology. You can do anything from replacement of the entire software stack. Basically, we would replace everything from the second stage bootloader upwards in this diagram. First stage bootloader tends to be locked, not something you can or want to replace, but replacing everything else then turns this into an Amino OS device. Sometimes that's difficult or not necessary, in which case you can cut the stack somewhere else, maybe add in some of the components that deliver Dash or HLS streaming, but leave some of the underlying components. And that's a project that we need to look at. We need to decide what is the best way to deploy this. And that really leads us on to the methodology. We go through a process of discovery to start with. We need to establish the key ownership. Can I sign a set-top box image? Can I get access to the keys? Who owns those keys? Can we get access to the tools, the metadata that tells us where various things are stored on the device, such as MAC addresses and those sorts of vital pieces of data that must be migrated over through the process. And even the low-level chip config is important. So we go through the discovery process, and we tend to recommend that we move towards a proof of concept. So we'll develop a migration image. So this is the image which is actually responsible for migrating the old software using the existing upgrade mechanism over to the base Amino OS image. When we complete that development, we then do a proof of concept with the customer to demonstrate the capability to take over the device and run Amino OS. It demonstrates also that we can signal the upgrade over the network and do a remote OTA and run a middleware image. That middleware image at the proof of concept stage wouldn't have all of the features that the operator ultimately wants. This is just about proving the complex part of the discovery and migration process is known and understood. Once we understand that, we can go into the full project methodology. And in the next stage, then, when we go into this project, we're in quite a normal firmware deployment project. We're establishing the project team, validating that we've got access to all of the necessary resources, establishing risk issues registers, and then going into analysis and design, agreeing the set of requirements with the customer. So what features are they looking for out of the new platform? What do they need that's on our Amino OS platform already or on the roadmap? And then development into deployment. Deployment's critical. We need to make sure this is done in a very controlled, safe manner because we're deploying typically to very large quantities of devices and doing a full OS migration. So we would do a migration trial, prove the migration process in the operator environment, go into a full system trial with all of the other integrated components, and then we start to move into the friendly user trial. As we get towards the deployment ramp, then in the early stages of that, we would typically have on-site support resource to help the operator through the migration process. So we are monitoring what's happening in the field, any issues that we're seeing as we start to deploy in volume, and also to manage a rollback process if we felt that there was some issue happening that we needed to stop the deployment and do a rollback. That's very unlikely given the testing that's been done to this point, but it's always better to have the engineering resource on site to be available in those circumstances. So to conclude, Amino OS is hardware independent and therefore is allowing us to do this across not just Amino devices, but to enable upcycling of third-party devices. It's providing a technology update. It allows feature development and continued support of the devices. Operators can do things like modernize the user experience, but also modernize the protocols that are supported on these devices that were maybe not envisaged or even invented at the time the device was first deployed. And it enables the operators to efficiently launch new services, and ultimately that's what's important for their consumers. So I'll hand over now to Jamie to go through the next section.
Thanks, Johnny. In this section of the webinar, we're going to focus on 2 case studies. One of the main reasons we are the market leader in this area is the amount of real-world projects that we've carried out before. But before I start, I wanted to highlight one of the other assets we have, our partner ecosystem. We've been working closely with Divitel over many years. Divitel is a specialist systems integrator for the media sector, having had 20+ years of pay TV, broadcast and online experience. They work closely with companies, helping them change fast, helping them change right, and to change easily. Formulating answers to these questions is their mission. Helping their customers not only deal with today's booming and complex technology landscape, but also with their day-to-day video delivery operations. What we do is we work hand in glove with Divitel here in EMEA and around the world. This helps us scale what we do in terms of working closely with companies when they're analyzing their upcycling projects, but also looking at how they are implementing and scaling what we're doing. So Divitel will help the company understand the impact of the upcycling project, what the benefits and what the opportunities are, and then help manage, along with the processes that Johnny had been laying out in the previous sector, our methodologies to help derive success. So just talking about success then, we move on to our first case study, Cincinnati Bell. Cincinnati Bell migrating to a modern user experience. extending the life of legacy assets while enabling a richer TV experience. Cincinnati Bell and its predecessor companies have provided telephone services to millions of subscribers in the greater Cincinnati area since 1873. Its Fioptics fiber network offers gigabit speeds to over 400,000 subscribers in the company's service area. So what was their challenge? CBT's Fioptics fiber network service offering was being powered by a ZTE end-to-end IPTV service. The solution incorporated middleware developed by ZTE and tailored to CBT's specific feature requirements, Varimatrix ViewRight DRM, whole home DVR solutions based on using Mocha for multi-room distribution, fast channel change, error correction by retransmission, and VOD-based ZTE proprietary platforms. ZTE found their middleware roadmap was lagging in competitive features for the North American market, and as a result, decided to migrate to a more mainstream middleware. As a device supplier with more presence and technology suited to, and a device supplier with more presence and technology suited to the North American market. However, they had 80,000 subscribers deployed with more than 240,000 ZTE set-top boxes and DVRs already in their network, and none of these had the relevant middleware offerings to support the ZTE hardware. So what was the solution? Working closely together, Amino and CBT executed a three-step plan. First, Amino ported ZTE middleware to Amino OS. This allowed CBT to halt purchases of the older ZTE hardware design and begin deploying a more capable and future-proof Amino View device. Secondly, Amino ported Amino OS to the ZTE hardware that was deployed. This allowed the 240,000 ZTE set-top boxes in the field to run the CBT new upgraded Minerva 10N middleware. Finally, Amino converted the existing Amino View devices in the network from ZTE to Minerva. So the outcome: in the course of a 6-month migration period, CBT converted its legacy ZTE hardware to Minerva and seamlessly continued to more than double the subscriber base of Amino View devices. This project was conducted in under 6 months, but importantly reduced the capex requirement for this project by 80%. Effectively, they moved from a lift and replace model where they were going to have to replace hardware in the field with new devices to being able to upgrade those devices. Incidentally, when those devices were upgraded, it was all done over the air with no truck roll required. So a huge commercial benefit for them. Let's just have a little look at what this little architecture diagram here. So just a reminder is the back end hardware and the front end was all provided by ZTE in an end-to-end basis. The first thing we did was we brought in Amino OS, which helped connect the ZTE hardware to the Minerva backend. This IP brought in a streaming piece, so the IP network, they added streaming to that, and what that enabled was the Minerva multi-screen proposition to be able to deploy it on those ZTE boxes. Bringing in Amino View, our view devices, and Amino OS, we did two things. One is we got them onto a next generation platform that was operating on the same Amino OS iteration. But what we also were able to do was to introduce them to the downstream possibility of deploying Android and the benefits of that. So our next case study is PCCW. Beyond 4K, building a future-proof entertainment platform. PCCW traces its roots back to 1882 when the Hong Kong Telephone Company first provided telephone services in the then British colony of Hong Kong. Now Hong Kong's largest communication service provider and leader in communications throughout Asia, PCC operates Hong Kong's largest broadband and subscription television service. So what was their challenge? PCCW was the world's first company to offer a commercial IPTV service in 1997, very much a trailblazer. PCCW developed its own user interface and back office systems to run its IPTV service, driven out of necessity and desire to innovate. Throughout the years, PCCW acquired multiple set-top box suppliers as the service expanded. In 2015, the company made plans to launch 4K and Ultra HD services with the new manufacturer, Samsung. The relationship provided an exciting opportunity to partner with a leading consumer electronics brand, but represented a fourth hardware architecture and third manufacturer in its install base of over 1 million devices. Having selected best of breed with each generational advancement, PCCW found itself with a device management problem, having several legacy suppliers and adding yet another to its network. So what was the solution? PCCW engaged Amino to port Amino OS onto the Samsung hardware and optimize the platform for performance of their latest 3.0 user interface. Amino also delivered a certified Netflix and YouTube application for the Samsung platform and developed an Android sandbox environment that enabled PCCW to run their Android apps for customer self-service, financial news, and education on the Samsung platform. Amino was also tasked with porting Amino OS to 3 other hardware architectures in the PCCW network, completely replacing the software stacks that were shipped from the original suppliers. This effectively doubled the performance of the legacy hardware by optimizing the hardware performance. So what was the outcome? As a result, PCCW now has a common software platform, Amino OS, that spans 4 hardware architectures from 3 hardware vendors. As a result, the cycle to test and deploy for new versions of the PCCW user interface has been reduced from 12 months to less than 3, a 4 times improvement. We have also managed to extend the life of legacy hardware significantly, maximizing commercially the opportunity there for PCCW. So let's have a look at their architecture and just a reminder of what we did for them. So remember, we were consolidating 4 generations of set-top boxes and also positioning them for future operations on next gen. So the back end PCCW, an IP and OTT network for legacy hardware with their own TV apps. So in the first step, the next generation set-top box with premium OTT comes in. So we're deploying the Samsung boxes, running Amino OS, and integrating that into the PCCW video platform and adding premium VOD, Netflix and YouTube. Stage 2, the upcycling of the existing consolidated platforms and upgrading the set-top boxes from hybrid and consolidating the video platform into one system. Well, let's hear from a customer. This is an architect from PCCW talking about working with Amino and upcycling projects.
I'm Kit, AVP of Product Development in Now TV. Now TV is an IPTV service operated by PCCW Media in Hong Kong and also the first IPTV platform in Asia. Currently, we have over 1 million subscribers. Now TV provides major sport events, horror studio movies, over 180 of worldwide TV channels, and also in-house produced content. Before we partner with Amino, we develop and package our set-top box middleware for various set-top box models supplied by different manufacturers. We face the problem of putting new features to legacy set-top box to align with the new set-top box model, or we might give up delivering new features to customers who are using legacy boxes. This caused customer requests for set-top box replacement and incur additional costs to handle calls and new set-top box. Another challenge is to manage software batches and release for both legacy and new hardware. Amino works directly with our set-top box manufacturer to develop and package set-top box release to both legacy and new set-top box model. Apart from the hassle-free software management, Amino also gives second life to the legacy set-top box. Amino's upcycling enables legacy set-top box running new applications with optimized performance. New UX, content parlor apps, for example, Netflix, YouTube TV, other new functions are no longer limited to the new hardware. We provide unified user experience across 4 generations of set-top box. This allows us to extend the set-top box lifetime and deliver new features to entire customer base without replacing all set-top box. Upcycling is not once off. Amino provides continuous release to deliver new features on the roadmap, as well as excellent support in problem solving, customization, content pilot app certifications, and performance tuning.
Thank you, Kit. In closing, just wanted to highlight a few things that was brought out by him in his video. One is that this is very much a long-term project. These are organic projects which take time, but the commercial benefits are very significant. The customer benefits are very significant. The churn benefits are very significant, and we've seen with all of the implementations we've done, whether that is in Europe, whether that is in North America or around the world, significant commercial and operational benefits. But at the heart of this is improving the user experience faster than they could do by doing a more traditional upgrade with a kind of lift and replace or cap and grow. So in closing then, we are going to draw this together with some questions, and I noticed we have some questions on the system at the moment, and I will read those out, and I think they're mostly technical, so I think we're going to get Johnny to answer those. So Johnny, the first question we have is it possible to upcycle pure play satellite or cable set-top boxes?
By pure play satellite or cable set-top box, I think you mean a one-way traditional DVB device. While probably theoretically possible, it's unlikely that you would do it. First of all, these devices are lower cost, older devices typically, so there might not be the same commercial justification for extending their life, and you know, it's going to be a more technically complex process, so your project costs are going to be greater. So I think while technically we can probably devise ways to do it, commercially it probably wouldn't make sense.
The next question would be, Johnny, one more for you. Is upcycling only relevant for Linux set-top boxes?
No, upcycling is relevant for Linux, AOSP, Android devices as well. It's probably easier with Linux because it's open to everybody to decide what's being deployed, what features are going to be in that, and implement something that suits their network. With Android, you have to also adhere to Google requirements and the memory spec required to support things like Android TV. So we have actually looked at a project to migrate a Linux device to be Android TV, but the unique thing about this was that the Linux device was deployed with the thought in mind day one that the hardware would be specified to support Android TV. So we can look at these things. Upcycling to AOSP is probably easier than Android TV, but again, the hardware spec tends to be quite different between a Linux device and an Android or AOSP. So it normally requires the operator to have thought about this right at the beginning of the deployment cycle for those devices.
What are the biggest barriers to a successful upcycling?
The biggest barrier to upcycling is typically the keys and the security that have been deployed on the box. So if the box has a particular CAS on it and the operator does not have the rights to use the signing keys to allow us to replace low-level components in the stack and replace from the second stage bootloader up if we're intending to do an entire stack replacement. That basically stops the project. So the early discovery phase is about understanding who has the rights, who has the legal ownership of the various different signing keys on the device, and then are all of the parties involved prepared to work together to a sufficient degree to allow us to do the job. So we do require some support from the original hardware vendor typically. They often own the signing tools for the second stage bootloader. We will have to have the support of the CAS vendor who's on the existing box and typically remains in the upcycled box as well. So those are the biggest barriers. That's why we go through a discovery phase and through a proof of concept phase, so that we can answer the difficult questions right up front before there's a lot of time and money invested in the project.
If you wanted to port or build your own player app on top of Amino OS, would that be possible?
Yes, it's certainly possible, but it's a complex task, and when you consider that we have already built players for Dash HLS multicast delivered content, and we've done the integration with all of the different CAS options that you have and DRM options, and think of things like subtitling and teletext. It becomes less attractive. I know middleware vendors struggle with the number of different players they have to integrate with, but you can still incur an awful lot of project cost by trying to change out key components of the stack and then create other integration issues on that stack. So it's definitely possible, but it's a complex project and you would have to find a real good justification for doing so.
Have you also deployed upcycling projects in Europe, as well as the North America and the and APAC case studies you've done? Yes, we have done in Europe. We've done a number of projects around Europe. Many thanks for joining us today. We are making materials available from today, but if you want to know anything more, please go to aminocom.com/solution and go to the upcycling area if you want to know more information. But please also feel free to contact myself, Johnny, or Thomas directly on the contact details we've laid out here if you have any questions, and we'd be delighted to answer them. Many thanks, and thank you for joining us today.